What's going on, friends? Harley-Davidson CVOs have always been very exclusive and very limited, as many of you may know. And in a lot of my videos covering the CVO, we've looked at a lot of the issues that can arise later on down the road from owning a CVO. Well, this video, I really wanted to pick on something that I never really saw coming out of Harley-Davidson. I was really surprised to see this model actually come out in a CVO version this year, and it's just, quite frankly, a little bit strange, especially if you're going to take this bike and you're going to use it for its intended purpose. Now guys, Harley-Davidson's Pan America was really kind of groundbreaking for Harley-Davidson. This is absolutely nothing new in the motorcycle world, but for Harley-Davidson to create an adventure touring motorcycle, I really feel like this brought a lot of people into Harley-Davidson that would normally not even turn an eye to Harley-Davidson, maybe even make it a thought whatsoever. The Pan America is definitely not everybody's flavor when it comes to Harley-Davidson. It is such a big departure from anything that we know as from Harley-Davidson's road-going cruisers and touring models. But the Pan America, they did it right. Don't get me wrong, this is an excellent motorcycle, but I was really surprised to see them come out with it in a CVO version. And to be honest with you, a CVO version of an adventure touring Harley-Davidson, it's kind of weird, and it can definitely cause you some issues. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now guys, I am not hating on the Pan America. I absolutely love everything Harley-Davidson, even though it's a little quirky, weird, and honestly a great big departure from anything that we normally see from the motor company. But an adventure touring bike in a CVO version, that's quite interesting, especially, as I said, if you're going to use it for what it's intended for, knowing that when it comes to a CVO, everything on a CVO is very exclusive. It's done in limited numbers, including the paint. Now, if you're going to take a Pan America, especially the CVO version, and you're going to take this thing off-road with a limited edition paint set on this bike, you're just asking for trouble. Buying one of these bikes, you definitely would expect to take them out, get them dirty, get them rock chipped, get them scratched up, get them dented up, especially if you're going to use them for their intended purpose. Now, I'm not saying somebody might not go out and spend 30 grand on a Pan America CVO and just ride it down the highway, but I find that really hard to believe. If you're into adventure touring motorcycles, you're going to want to take this bike off-road. And honestly, for 30 grand for basically, don't hate me for this, but a dirt bike, I'm not going to take a $30,000 dirt bike off-road. So right there, I'm not really using the bike for its intended purpose. If I'm going to take it off-road, I'm even hard-pressed to spend $20,000 on one of these bikes. Knowing what we know about the CVOs, the limited edition paints, you scratch these up, you tear them up, you want to refurb them back to new, this is going to be quite difficult considering that these bikes are literally produced in limited numbers, and honestly the paint sets are limited too, so they're very difficult to get replacement parts for. Now, you take that and you're multiplying it times 10 on a CVO Pan America. Not everybody's going to take their CVO Street Glide, Road Glide. They're not going to take this bike off-roading, so honestly, there's less chance of getting into an accident or getting it damaged or tore up. But going off-road, you're just asking for trouble with one of these bikes. Now, one of the other weird kind of quirky things, not just aside from having a CVO 25th anniversary of an adventure touring bike, is the fact that Harley-Davidson, from what I can see so far on these bikes, they haven't thrown everything that they got at it. Yes, you got the limited edition paint, you got some of the, basically all the accessories out of the catalog, well, most all the accessories, and I'll get to that here in a minute. You're getting the lights, you're getting basically the ammo box touring bags for it. Well, touring bags are more like touring boxes. You're getting a lot of neat stuff on this bike. But the one thing that really stuck out to me is if you're already spending $30,000 for the Pan America CVO, you're not even getting a Screaming Eagle exhaust. This thing has still got the factory exhaust on it. You would think for 30 grand and with the CVO moniker attached to this bike, they would at least give you the Screaming Eagle exhaust, the factory off-the-shelf version at the very least. And honestly, take that a step further, instead of basically that bare titanium finish that comes on the CVO exhaust in the Screaming Eagle version, you would at least get a black anodized version that really kind of blends into the bike and just kind of matches the whole black theme that they got going on with the motorcycle. But you don't even get that for the price you're paying. Now, granted, you do get pretty much every other accessory available for the Pan America out of the catalog, plus custom paint, plus a little extra details. They went in, instead of black on the engine guards, they painted them red. I mean, a lot of cool touches on that, but you gotta think, are you really gonna take that bike off-road for $30,000 knowing you have limited edition paint on this bike? The best thing you could hope for is, well, basically the same thing with any other CVO, is if you damage it, you're probably more than likely gonna have to find a painter that's gonna fix it. So if you're gonna buy a Pan America, don't go for the CVO model unless you're just going to ride it on the highway, or you're going to take this bike and you're going to put it up and basically use it as kind of something for your collection. I mean, honestly, I don't have 30 grand to go out and spend on a new touring bike, let alone something that I want to use it to its full potential and not just run it down the highway. You take that down a dirt road, you get a rock chip in it, you try to ride this thing in the woods. I mean, you look out there on the internet, you're going to see a lot of videos of guys taking these Pan Americas out and doing all kinds of crazy stuff with them. I mean, things I wouldn't even do on a regular dirt bike, let alone a road-going bike with 150 horsepower. That's basically, I don't even know how you'd ride that thing off-road without the rider aids, having the traction control and everything else that comes with them. Because you got to think, guys, these things are 150 horsepower. And that's definitely something I would have expected to see in the Sportster S, which the Sportster S coming out was only 120 horsepower. It's kind of like Harley-Davidson on the Sportster S really just made it good enough to compete with the Indian Scout. They didn't really take it any further like they did on the Pan America, making this bike be able to compete, meet, and exceed all of its competition out there on the market, from BMW, KTM, a lot of the bikes that are really big in the adventure touring market. Harley-Davidson threw everything they had at the Pan America, but they kind of fell a little short of that Sportster S, even though it shares the same displacement, basically the same engine all the way around, but still has about 30 less horsepower. Now, the other interesting thing with the Pan America this year, besides the CVO model, is that we don't have a standard version, kind of that sub $20,000 standard version of it. They're basically starting out about 20 plus, and that's without adding any accessories on it. So in the CVO, essentially an extra 10 grand roughly is going to get you every accessory in the book except the Screamin' Eagle exhaust, which I think that's kind of my biggest point of this bike, is that of everything they put onto it, aside from being a little quirky from having a CVO version of the adventure touring bike, was no Screamin' Eagle exhaust, no high-performance K&N air filter in it. Basically, the engine and everything is pretty much bone stock. They didn't do anything special to it other than the paint and the accessory bolt-ons. Which, as we know, Harley-Davidson, it is kind of nice to see them kind of branch out of the touring and do the CVO on something else. A CVO that would have been neat but really never came to fruition was the old Evolution Sportster. It would have been neat to see kind of a CVO version of that Evo Sportster before it actually went out of production. And the closest we ever got to a CVO Sportster was basically the anniversary editions, pretty notably the 2013 model. That was a pretty special Sportster that they're pretty rare. You don't see them around a lot of places, but they had a lot of neat custom parts on it. But even when it comes to that anniversary edition Sportster, you still have the same problem when it comes to basically all the other CVO issues, and that is if you damage the paint or anything else on the bike, it's going to be pretty hard to find right down to the seat. So when it comes to the CVO, if you're looking at buying one of those in the Pan America version of it, I mean, that's completely up to you. That's a lot of money for an adventure touring bike, especially one that's got like a lot of limited production pieces on it. You want to be very careful with that. Now, what you do with your money, if you decide to buy one and take it off-road and ride it like it was intended, that's completely up to you. But I don't know about you guys. I mentioned I ain't got 30 grand to spend on one to go out and play on it. I'd probably get me an old dirt bike or something if I wanted to do that. But I don't really get off-road much anyhow, so I think I'll just stick to my street bikes when it comes to Harley-Davidson. But guys, I do want your opinion on the Pan America CVO and just the Pan America in general. Do you think this was a good move for Harley-Davidson? Do you think it was good for them to kind of try to branch out and get into some other markets and start expanding? And as we know, we've kind of heard the rumors, Harley-Davidson does have plans to expand that CVO line to maybe down to that 975. I've even heard a 500cc version of it. Could be kind of interesting to try to get some more riders roped into Harley-Davidson, get them on that, get them in the family, and then eventually, hopefully, we can get on some air-cooled twins. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars, I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.